Hello and welcome to an episode, another one that is, of Power On Podcast, the Bebops and the Beboops. I am really scrounging and
Bottom of the barrel.
digging deep. Yeah. Oh yeah.
We still have quite a few episodes to get to, so.
And I literally don't think about this until I say it, and I'm like, oh, I have nothing in mind. Anyways, I am one of your hosts, Taylor. Hi, how's it going? And with me is the humble, we'll just go with humble. The humble Sushi B. How you doing?
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Right.
I'm doing well, and we are, for the first time in a long time, sharing a cool beverage over this discussion.
Yes. Cool beverage. I don't know if this will loosen me up any. I don't think I really need that per se, but
No, and I know it's not something you typically do, nor do I that much anymore. But we're not celebrating anything specific. We're just, hey, why not? You said you had one in the fridge. I do too. Let's go for
it. Right.
And just so happen to both have a Guinness, which I did not expect to have in your fridge.
Yeah, like I will just randomly put something in there. Not like, oh yes, this one in particular is my go-to or something. I just like, I'll have something like that. Oh, I have something like that. So,
I mean, it's definitely a little bit of a smoother type alcoholic beverage, so offers a little bit different, just a little bit different, beer drinking experience, if you will. So being stout. Yep.
Stout. Mm-hmm. Speaking of stout, going to talk about some wild ponies, wild horses.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're on episode 19 of the series here, and this is kind of one of the few opportunities that we get a little bit of a, I guess a backdrop into Spike a little bit to some degree. It's still like obfuscated by a lot of things, and it's still not full attention to it. But this one kind of gives a little bit more of I'd say a good light to the character that I always want to slam about being the bad one of the lot.
The little bit more hollow one.
Yeah. No, this one he steps up. There's he has a good bit of selflessness that he exhibits at one point. I'm like, oh, and then just in general, he's a little bit more of a quote unquote good guy. This episode, so
yeah, a little less of his callous nature in this one.
Yeah, callous and aloof kind of thing. And so yeah, I guess if that's where I'll start with something I do like about this episode is that it does shine a nice light with him getting that coffee for Doohan and Miles. Just him flying the swordfish in front, or to block the projectile harpoons. Even though that's could cost him kind of thing. He doesn't really second guess it or anything. He's like, oh, we gotta protect them. So like instances like that really kind of shine through kind of thing. So
yeah, and then we do get that here and there in some of his episodes. Like I think back to the trucker episode,
Heavy Metal Queen.
Thank you, Heavy Metal Queen. A little bit in that episode as well. So that is kind of nice when the episodes do focus on Spike and they're not related to sort of the main plot line, if you will, like those heavier episodes like 5 and 12, 13, and so forth. These ones that are a little more one-off, we do get to see a little bit of that softer side of the character. Or like, I guess I wouldn't say sentimental, but sort of he does have some level of care to some of the people he's around.
Right, yeah. I mean, you can see it in Battle Fallen Angels as well when he runs into Anastasia. There, it's just kind of like, there is a softer side to him, but like it's almost like the tsundere kind of character where it's like, oh, it's bristly on the outside, but gooey, warm feelings on the inside. It's like, well, okay, but if you are being selective about how warm you are to people, obviously that shows somebody who's taken a lot of damage in some way, and I'm not faulting him for it, but it's just like I mean, I get it, but in the same hand, it's like this is where you got to overcome that. Got to overcome the damage. Be who you are. Don't just take the damage and then recede into your shell.
Yep, for sure. For me, the character of Duhan, like I like the character, but it's faltering between the good and the gray, or like kind of I'm not so sure about zone, just because I wish we could explore the character a little bit more, and perhaps the connection between Spike and him. Him saying, "Hey, I didn't just give the swordfish to you for nothing. I basically handpicked you." But that would be interesting to find out more. What's the backstory there?
Right, especially since he's a mechanic, like on Earth.
Right.
Kind of thing. It's like, did he recede over here because he was in hot with the syndicate and was like, right. I'm going to bail, Yeah, there's a whole lot of question. I like his look too. I like him. Miles doesn't look bad. I don't mind Miles at all. He has very youthful energy, we'll say.
He does.
So, and just him, being very disappointed in his team, the Blue Sox and everything. It's like, it's like, okay, I get it. So yeah, the main minor characters, one-off characters, you say, I enjoyed them this round.
Yeah, and I think it's nice that it doesn't go overboard with really only adding these two. And it's nice that they're really, I mean, there's villains, quote unquote, per se here, but they're so beyond even being secondary. They're like, third level characters in this episode, right? They're really just meant to help move the plot along.
You leave Babe Ruth alone.
But yeah, it's just sort of, they're obviously not very important to the overarching bit here.
Yeah, they're much more of a vehicle to kind of keep things going. Because it's jumping between with Spike's getting his ship overhauled and getting a lesson that he's not going to listen to from the basically the allegorical. Hey, if you keep this up, things are gonna go bad. Duhan's telling him this. You have that going on, and then Jet and Faye and the others of the Bebop are dealing with space pirates or spaceship pirates or whatever, who are just kind of a vehicle to they're really just kind of there.
yeah, they don't really have too much to do other than just kind of get in the way, more or less. But I mean, they're sort of harpoon, virus setting tools or weapons are kind of neat. Like, it's pretty cool at the end where, as you said, when Spike is going to protect the Bebop, and it kind of makes you wonder, like, Jet should know better, right? Like, he's flying this huge target essentially. But anyways, it is cool that Spike kind of gets in the way, and just how that chamber like opens and however many of those harpoons just come flying out. But it's kind of at the same point, it doesn't seem like a very wise tactic, that they don't seem to know what they're actually dealing with, because it backfires on them, and they're just like, whoa, like, how could that happen?
What do we do?
Yeah. They're so used to just kind of giving out that punishment rather than receiving any.
With that, it almost strikes me as that it is such an easy thing to do. And because people are so, I mean, look how Faye reacted. Faye just kind of was like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
Right.
So, like, I would imagine that that's probably the majority of people that get that. So they're kind of like, oh, we don't have to make some sort of antivirus for ourselves or anything. It's super duper easy.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I like that even a master hacker such as Ed doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. It's not like, oh, well, I can just magic, quote unquote, up a cure for this virus.
Mm-hmm. But that's happened now twice, where Ed's supposed to be this super genius and has been kind of caught, right, when it came to the chess master Hex as well. So it's interesting that, I guess, I think it's probably trying to show that as smart as Ed is still very young and still has much to learn.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree with that.
So I like that.
I enjoy the back and forth that Spike and Faye have as they're about to chase the two trailers.
Right.
When they're having that dialogue, and then I figure it was just shoot and see who runs. And he's like, yeah, I like that idea. That's the first time I think Jet's like, what are you doing, you idiots? What if they both run?
Yeah, trying to be that voice of reason or direction. Not just tally-ho, charge in, and hope for the best.
Right.
I like the idea of Duhan's sort of workspace. And it just being this shell-domed, I don't know, it's hangar, I guess,
right,
for lack of a better word. And just how it busts open. And I like the imagery of the, what was it, the Columbia?
Yeah,
station?
a little.
Yeah.
Oof.
Little odd.
Oof.
A little odd.
A little
on
weird
that
to
front,
see that.
But, but just kind of, but an interesting nod as well.
Right.
But I just like how it's been retrofitted, and just like the image of it, like flying towards the screen, and all of the smoke and the dust like blowing out behind, and needing that extra thruster kind of on the front end to push down so that it would raise the front nose up. Being retrofitted like that, I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't know if that'd work though.
I don't doubt it. Right? The amount of energy that would be required. I
don't think that'll work.
Be significant. It's like those jets that can kind of hover. What's that jet called? Somebody
is it the 22?
But I don't know. It's the one that has the exhaust that can like kind of hover a little bit, right? And then it's in the movie True Lies. That's the jet that Arnold's flying at the end, where it can kind of hover.
I've never seen True Lies fully through.
Oh, maybe that's maybe seen like in the trailer, because it's in the trailer and stuff.
I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah, but I thought maybe you'd seen like an image of him flying that plane or whatever. But yeah. Anyways, I can't imagine the amount of fuel that would be required to actually get that ship off the ground.
Unless it was magic space fuel.
Or being in the future, what type of energy is accessible?
Future fuel. Yeah, because that's future fuel. They don't really ever.
It's filled with Guinness.
they don't ever really specify what is the fuel source for things.
No, we see that in the first episode with Spike fueling up. So yeah, it's a good point. We don't know what. Kind of believing gasoline is probably not the main fuel source at that point, but maybe it still is.
Right, yeah. I guess, depending on how that works out, right? Because like it's kind of the difference between like an electric engine versus a diesel engine, and how much more power a diesel engine can pump out.
Right. At least at this current time.
Right. So
until there's further advances. Yeah. That's probably a wise decision on their part, though, too. Right?
Yeah,
like some people, they've got to overanalyze everything. It's like, well, the chemical balance, and like, how people can get with this kind of stuff when it comes to anything sci-fi. And, oh, well, you couldn't do this or this and this. And like, we're talking fantasy sci-fi, right? And for everything that sci-fi gets wrong, it's kind of shocking, some of the stuff that is pretty close still. Like, there usually is some level of science put behind many of the ideas we see in film and shows like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's much better that it's not, the one thing that I always, actually, David, who'll probably listen to this at some point, and you've met David, yeah, we had a little bit of a, not a, like a heated argument, but a bit of a spat, because I still find it annoyingly ridiculous that they're using, like the Austria pistol and like those sorts of pistols, and it's like, I mean, I get it, but in the same hand, you're not gonna have something a little more sleeker, something a little more interesting.
You're hoping for the Roger Moore Moonraker?
Yes, please. I need my moon lasers.
Yeah, we haven't had a space laser battle.
Future just ain't what it's built up to be.
Yeah, I guess not. See you in space, darling. Can you imagine if you got to guest appear on one of these shows, like as a character?
I would no, thank you. just no.
What if he was Ein?
No. Absolutely not. I also just like a lot of the little settings. I know you said the workshop. Yeah, the workshop, and just how it's one of those rural, small town kind of places sort of vibe to it, which doesn't bother me. It's not like it's rural in the sense of Deliverance. It's more of just, rural, and there's just not a lot else going on.
Deserted area. Yeah, and I think it makes sense for the type of character that Duhan is too. And if, as you said, there's a backstory there that he's kind of actually hiding out, that he would be in the middle of nowhere.
I mean, he could just be one of those people who's just like, I mean, he is a bit of a prickly pear. Mm-hmm. So it could be just like, I don't want to deal with people. You need some business done, now you can come to me. But I don't want to deal with you.
Yeah, and it's very possible, right? As he's gotten up in age, he just doesn't want to deal with too many people, and he's clearly enjoying the work he does, and he has a passion to repair and fix things. Mm-hmm. And as we can see in his workshop, he's got several unfinished projects, right? They're probably just lifelong projects.
Right.
So probably being in that sort of environment is a little bit easier to manage and deal with, rather than constantly having customers come in and so forth. Like, he probably has his clientele that he can stick to, and they come in as needed, and otherwise he can just kind of work on his own stuff, and he's got a helper as needed as well, and just goes about his days.
Do you have any other likes?
Nothing too outstanding that I can think of. Is there anything for you?
Yes. So I really like the interaction between Miles and Doohan.
Okay.
Because
like on the shuttle?
When they're particularly when Doohan is kind of listening to Swordfish and trying to figure out, Miles knows what's wrong.
Right.
And, it's pointing this out, but Doohan's like, hey, if you put a silencer on it, you're not going to be able to hear what's going on. You're not going to be able to get this. And he has that line where he's like, you either, work for the machine or it works for you kind of thing. And it's kind of one of those nice lines that it's, that somebody like Miles probably isn't going to get. But it might be something that makes sense to him when he's like older, sort of thing. I don't know. There's something I really appreciated about that scene.
Okay.
So
I do like their back and forth on the shuttle.
Mm.
And just sort of, you can kind of see that Miles has almost a bit more of a newfound respect for, not that he didn't already for Duhan, but just a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And just his sheer joy and excitement of the shuttle actually working.
Right.
He's really not sure it can actually get into orbit kind of thing, or even get off the ground. And just Duhan's kind of satisfaction of successfully making it work.
Yippers.
Yeah, and I do like the some of the imagery with the swordfish as well, like after it's hit and it's just manually kind of gliding along. And just sort of it's starting to potentially re-enter atmosphere and things like that, and just kind of some of the artistic choices there look kind of neat.
All right, and what about some gray or some stuff you didn't like?
As a whole, the episode it's fine, but as I said, I feel like it's just missing some information. Like it moves along as most of the Bebop episodes do, but for this one, I don't know. It feels like it needed more time to cook a little bit to get more of that backstory. Duhan doesn't come back at all, from what I recall.
Right.
So that's kind of an unfortunate missed opportunity there. Like when it came to Heavy Metal Queen or something, those were initial meetings, whereas this isn't. So I find that's a little bit too bad that we just don't get more. And again, I don't know if this is necessarily negative, but it's certainly at least in the middle area for me. Like it's kind of like, it's kind of too bad. I wish they could have done a bit more.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's almost like a little bit of a Shaggy Dog story where like the key thing that you want to know, it just sort of dances around it, and you're just like, okay, all right, cool. I guess we really won't get much out of this. Great.
Yeah, that's just it's kind of a missed opportunity to get to know a bit more about Spike, and then maybe just general other things in this universe. So that's too bad. It's funny. This episode reminded me of there's an episode in Gundam 0083, and I don't know that many anime shows, but I've watched all of 083, and there's a similar episode where I can't remember the name of the characters now because I haven't seen it in a while, but the main character is repairing, is it a shuttle? Or is he repairing the Gundam? One or the other. And he's actually with like someone from the other enemy lines, and they end up like working together, and then they end up, if I recall correctly, they end up in space, and one of the other guys get killed off, basically. So even though they were working together to kind of get off and get away from their scenario or situation, the ultimate ending was not so great for one of those parties. And not that I expected that here, but it's just sort of like, like I said, the ending is so abrupt too. Just Spike's floating in space, lands into the shuttle. That's it. and then a picture card, a postcard of them crash land.
That's right.
Which I guess does feel very Cowboy Bebop to just be like, we're going to just tell you enough, but not really enough, and the end. Moving on.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the nature of it being episodic, and as long as the episodes are, that abruptness is kind of, or just, vagueness is there, kind of almost baked into the system for it. I get what you mean, though. It does have this weird sort of, kind of how like the episode starts, this just sort of hazy quality to it, where it's like that hot hazy, and it's just like that's what the episode feels like. It feels like a hot, lazy summer day, and you're like, okay.
Hey, do you think some of the references in this one? So I'm assuming Wild Horses that's from the Rolling Stones, like a song. That's a Rolling Stone song. So I'm pretty sure that one's there. But do you think Doohan is named after James Doohan, who played Scotty in Star Trek?
That could be the case. I never.
I don't know if that's a big stretch or if that's intentional.
Wasn't Scotty a bit of a, not necessarily a gearhead?
Well, he was like the engineer?
Yeah, so it does kind of fit.
Head or whatever. Yeah.
It could have been a nice nod and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It could very well be this.
Mm. And then Miles for Miles O'Brien.
Well, I've heard that, and then even the space pirates, right, are like George Herman Ruth. So, and baseball being such a key component of the kind of the backdrop of the episode. So I don't know. I feel like there probably are a lot of possible connections, and they probably are likely meant to be references just because of the nature of this series.
Mm-hmm.
But we could also be just trying to connect dots on some of them. Some of them may not have been as intentional as we might think they are.
There to kind of be a little bit of a red herring, sort of, kind of.
Maybe, or just like names could just be being picked out in certain cases. Like Doohan could have just been a name that somebody's seen somewhere, not necessarily because of Star Trek.
Yeah.
But somebody's made the connection to be like, oh, well, this show's in space and Star Trek's in space, and trying to play the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever.
Everything connects.
Well,
all these squares make a circle.
At some point, Kevin Bacon will not be able to connect to, just as he gets older and has, less connection in Hollywood and stuff. But it's pretty maddening if you see some of those. It's pretty bizarre. Like, people have found ways to connect like everything to Kevin
Bacon. Yeah, it's not quite a rabbit hole I'm aware of it, but it's not a rabbit hole I've dived into.
Right. Did you also notice that music plays almost no factor in this episode?
Yeah, it's a bit
Which I thought was interesting. Like, there's almost no music, most of it.
Bit of a subdued bit with the music there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's just these like short, not stings, but just a handful of notes here and there.
Yeah. I just thought that was interesting for basically every episode prior to music playing such an influential part. I think the most significant piece of music I remember is once Spike goes to block all of the grappling hooks. I think it kind of kicks in at that point. Otherwise, it's quite subdued or just non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting choice for this episode.
Even though they were mentioned before a little bit, I couldn't care less about the space pirates. It's just like whatever. They're just a vehicle, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's just like whatever.
They're not utilized very much, really.
Yeah.
They should have all had an eye patch or a scarf. Should have really dolled them up to make them stand out a bit more.
Give out neon eye patches.
Yeah. With laser sighting on them.
Holographic parrots.
Yeah, I like that actually. That's really good. Like a really steampunk peg leg. Like it just has, like it's just like it's like a little transformer on his leg. And they could have I don't know, stolen iron or something. I need something to do with it. Like in most of these episodes, they could have been like after the Data Dog again or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that Data Dog really gets shelved.
Yes. Well, they certainly made it seem like it was going to be very important. And then I just basically is just a plain old dog, basically, after.
Right.
Basically.
Outside of like the small little thing here and there. Maybe that's what it was. It was a way to kind of front load. Hey, when Ein does something really intelligent, you already know it's because I'm the data dog.
Yeah.
So that could very well be the...
Which is still pretty questionable because Ein doesn't make a lot of good choices a lot of the time. But, you're right about the space pirates. You think there'd be a lot more space pirates in this kind of world. Like, you have a lot of gangsters, you have a lot of thieves, you have a lot of these other... I don't know.
Yeah, the syndicates.
The underbelly, of the universe or whatever, but not a lot in the way of the pirates, really. We've had the eco-terrorists.
Mm.
Yeah, pirates, not a whole lot.
Yeah, maybe that's because the syndicates have such a strong hold elsewhere, so they're kind of on the fringes.
They're really the outer rims.
Right.
Yeah, could be.
That's not really the only thing I could think of, because they only pop up here on Earth, and then Ganymede was where the eco-psychos were, so...
Eco-psychos.
So, yeah. Is there anything else that you want to add before we go into...
No, I think I'm good. Like I said, this episode's kind of a quick brush off, so...
Yeah, all right. Well, we're going to, I guess, give this a ranking. I'm going to go off of the 100,000 Wulong offering that I can't remember. Reggie? Is it Reggie the one that ends up delivering that or something? Because Doohan tells Miles to order that 3.8 pneumatic from Reggie,
yes,
I think,
yes.
and then the guy comes up, and I don't think they
randomly just shows up and randomly just leaves.
He's like, I got that 3.8 pneumatic too, that rare.
Right.
Gotta add in the
rare parts for that swordfish.
Right. So, for a mono system that's hot, because they got it off of the pirates.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go off the 100,000 Oolong one. Me personally, as I actually like this episode a good deal.
Okay.
I don't know. It was one that I always seem to catch, and maybe it's just a way to that I was like, I always seem to catch this episode. I'm just gonna like it, so it doesn't bother me as much that I see. So, but
willed your way to enjoying it.
Maybe not like enjoying it, but just like this isn't nearly as bad. So I'll give it 105,000.
Okay, well it's not quite as much as I was expecting, just based on your sentiment there. But I think I'm just going to go with I don't mind this episode, but it's not one I would want to jump in right away to if I'm going back to watch the series. I'd probably go 75,000.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not horrible or anything. It's just, it is a bit slower paced, which is fine. We've had other slower paced ones. I just don't really like the lack of depth when it came to just really scratching that surface for the personality of Spike and then Doohan and Miles.
Right. Yeah, especially when it comes to Spike, it's always the action. Mm-hmm. That's really what you have to.
Yeah, and it's like we've said before, we get it. He's cool. Sure. Okay. But does he not have any other quality traits?
Right. So, yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it. That's all we got. So, unless there's some other little thing you want to add.
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for episode 19. Thanks for listening. And if you want to tell us how right or wrong we are, or just something you like about the episode, definitely let us know. And, that's it. See you, Space Cowboy.